Subscribe now and press the bell icon. Never miss an update.
I'm gonna be brief. I'm just gonna share Greek, but brief. Just the highlights. I will highlight the most important points of my presentation, and we're going back. Ed, you talked about the future of TCs. Now I'm going to talk about the history, how TCs were born and how we came to where we are right now. Well, it is a twofold purpose. That's a twofold purpose of my presentation. One is to inform you about the history of the TC movement, and the other is to inspire. But I will start with a very important event, in my humble opinion. On a massive level. When? It's not a rhetorical question. Historically. Do you know? We're talking about thousands of people, millions of people using a substance. We're talking about massive use now, not something religious. Because of the steam. Blame the steam for everything. The discovery of steam as a source of energy. We have trains, but mostly we have factories. So we have the Industrial Revolution. This changes the picture completely. Just think of Charles Dickens' England, London. Millions of people, thousands of people living the countryside, their villages, a more natural way of living. And they go where the factories are, and they are transported massively by trains. So they go to the big cities, and they are lonely. They lose their identity. They lose their inner self in a way. So what do? They drink alcohol. In China, they do opium, but massively. So there is a social element. It's because of the way society was functioning at the time that we have this big change. So there is a strong social element to this, and that's why, especially in Britain, we have all these efforts to fight this, but mainly with delinquency, with juvenile delinquency, with adolescents doing their own things. And you have Baden-Powell, who establishes the Boy Scouts, but there are some people on the left, on the political left, that they don't like this idea of Boy Scouts, military attire, saluting and all this. So they're more free, they're leftists. So they say, let's have communities to help these kids, 200 kids, 500 kids. So we have the Boys' Republic, Little Commonwealth, which was started by Lord Sandwich, who was a descendant of a very important man, Lord Sandwich, who discovered the sandwich. Okay? Yes. He was an addict. He was playing poker, and he didn't want. Yes, Earl of Sandwich. He didn't want to lose time, so he asked one of his butlers to put between two slices of bread to put lettuce and tomato and some ham, and that's how the sandwich came to be. You see what you learn in a TC conference? Okay. Anyways, so we come to this. All these three streams meet together, and for me, in a symbolic way, that's a little, okay, I mean, okay, you might agree with this, but to me, symbolically, in 1975, we have the first International Conference of Therapeutic Communities. Maxwell Jones is there, remember, the military hospitals, and he realizes that there are people who are doing the same thing that he is doing, but with addiction. So everybody meets in North Shopping, Sweden. And this, for me, is a turning point in many ways. This is where therapeutic communities really start spreading all over the world. 3 Greek words. Well, at least you will live here with a little knowledge of Greek, okay? So, okay. The first word is olon, whole. At TC, thank you, it is a holistic approach. And this is the organization I work for, Kethia in Greece. So you can see that it is holistic. Look at all the things that are happening. We heard from our colleagues from Odyssey House. Look, exactly the same thing. It's a holistic approach. It has to do with the whole of life, not one aspect of life. It has to do with the whole of life. It is also synthetic. The word synthesis, it brings things together. We can use all these these are approaches, therapeutic approaches, treatment approaches, and all this and more, because there is room for this. Okay, so it is a synthetic approach. And also, it requires synergy. You see, it's part of the treatment continuum, recovery, a TC, that includes prevention, harm reduction, and medically assisted treatment, social integration, all this. It's a part of a continuum. This is the inspirational part. These are things that we do in Greece. We have ceramic workshops, woodwork. We have 120 units all over the country, which is big for Europe, but it's small for India, of course. But we have 120 units, and all our furniture and the doors and the frames and the window frames are produced by the residents, by the members of the therapeutic communities who learn this trade. We have a printing factory, a big printing factory. It's one of the biggest in Southeastern Europe. And also we make pasta. These are just examples, okay? What people in a therapeutic community do, okay? And this is therapy. This is treatment. And this is about judo. There were some people who remembered, last time I was here, I mentioned this story, my judo story. That, for example, we had this guy who was a gang leader from Georgia, actually, a Georgian gang leader. He was in prison, and he went to our programs, to RTC in prison, the one that Natalie described before. And he went through other programs. Now, this is 20 years ago. And now he's a judo teacher, and we went together to Japan, to Osaka, and he took the oath in front of all the athletes, on behalf of all the athletes. In this international tournament, this ex-Georgian gang leader with Kalashnikov, right, and drug addict, okay, because he learned how to do judo in the therapeutic community. Judo can become a tool for treatment as well, because the approach is holistic. Okay, these are the statistics. We conducted a massive research project, and we found out 5 years later that 72% of the people who came to our programs, even for one day, but they stayed at least for a year, okay, at least for a year. 72% were not doing any drugs. 86%, if I'm not mistaken, had a job, and 88% didn't get in trouble with the law throughout all those 5 years. So there is evidence, there is success. And there is research. We saw the book that is coming out in March, when SIP pointed out. This is another one, the opioid epidemic and the therapeutic community model, because especially in North America, US and Canada, there is a big problem. There is really an opioid epidemic with fentanyl and heroin and all this. And I'm finishing, this is the cutting edge, I think, of current research. And I will finish with a story, and that's it. Zora, that's a girl's name, that's a lady's name, was from a small town, a border town with Turkey. She was addicted, she was a poly user, mainly heroin, she was doing mainly heroin. She came to a TC, she started doing judo, and she went to the nationals, and she got silver medal at the nationals. And that was the year 2003. I don't know if you remember, but 2004, the Olympics were in Athens. And for the country that hosts the Olympics, the first 2 athletes in each sport can participate. So, from the TC, she took part in the Olympics. And 4 years later, in 2008, she ran with the Olympic flame in the streets of Athens with her daughter on the other hand. Miracles can happen. And this is the TC spirit. Thank you.